Test,
email
test, test.
and social media.
Test, test, test. So this is all done in the admissions. It's like our YouTube channel. It's the admissions videos concept. Your ES not. We got awesome employees. I was a music teacher before I was a music teacher and the tech department. My previous school. I came here to the tech department and quickly got into the music department.
That's all you get. You learn that in lower school, and then middle school takes a little higher.
I'm backing off to let you have some.
Yeah.
There's a guitar too,
Put the
if you
cashews
want to
on
start
there.
like really.
You had drum set, I think.
You didn't bring your little ukulele.
I should have brought it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Do you think the boys would dance with girls?
We're gonna have you lead.
Yes. Awesome.
We're gonna have you lead this discussion.
We're going to.
You can't be trying for you.
Right? I never got to see it. You got it. Good.
How
No, I never got to see it.
All right, Ken, we good? We're rolling, super. We're gonna record this, just because we've got some folks that are able to join us online. We think this is gonna be a super resource for you guys, and I love how nobody. We moved back just a little bit farther. Does that mean that it prolongs the middle years from coming? You probably have already noticed the middle years have already started. If you're getting some eye rolls in your house, a little bit of back talking, a little bit of pushing, a little bit of I want my independence, it's very, very developmentally normal. And so don't feel bad. Mary has done 2 tours. I have done 3 tours of middle school and I've survived. I lose a little bit of hair. I have 3 daughters and they're all in grown up now, 2 in college and 1 in high school, and they're gonna turn out okay. They really are. They're really delightful. The 20-year-olds are really delightful. But there are gonna be a few years coming up, and it probably has already started now that they're gonna just sort of developmentally skew away from what you feel like is normal and a delightful child. There are going to be days where you're going to call me and say, what can I do to not, end their life or, really strangle them. And I get it. I've been there. We've done this frustration. So things that we have noticed, the kids are growing up a little bit faster, a little bit earlier. Hey, a little bit faster, a little bit earlier. And 4th grade seems to be that time where really we're starting to take some new directions.
That's 5th grade, by the way.
We started exploring opportunities. There are a lot of schools out there that bring 5th grade over to their middle school because they are ready to not be self-contained like they are right now. They have 2 teachers in this classroom that are teaching all of the subjects, majority of the subjects, and then they go off to their specials for the enrichment classes. The way the program, is designed for 5th and 6th grade, which we call Tribe 11, and that's a unique term for us, where we have the tribes agreements. So we're still celebrating and really holding on to those tribes agreements because we need them to get through these years. But it's also, again, that sweet, that innocence, that stamina through the middle school years. And the 11 comes from, we were celebrating the 11-year-old, and then one of the kids said, well, 5th grade plus 6th grade, 5 and 6 is 11. I'm like, really, you're so smart. So Tribe 11. So that is a term that we use that's very unique to ESK. A 5-6 program is not necessarily unique just to us. I know that Farragut Middle School is a 5, 6, 7, 8 program. And I think might be it for us in the Knoxville area. But we went out 7 years ago after my first year and explored different schools that had 5, 6 programs. And I will tell you, they all hands down loved it. They loved it for 5th grade because they're ready to branch out a little bit, have a specialized instructor, a math and a specialized science instructor, or a specialized language arts or history or world language, which we'll talk about too. But on the other hand, the 6th grade really likes having the 5th grade. And that's something I could say from my experience with my daughter. She just didn't grow up as fast. And she related more to the 5th grade when she was a 6th grader than she did when, growing up and trying to relate to the 7th grader. Something's going to happen. Some of you all know, Andy, you've been through this. Something happens between the 6th and the 7th grade year summer. It's just, they really, really get into the peak of middle school at that time. So the 6th grade really appreciates having the 5th grade on their hall. And so that's the 5-6 program. They aren't really intermingled too much as far as their subject classes are concerned. We do advisory, which is nice, so that they are mixed during those times. With our social activity, our social time, recess, lunch, when we go to camp and do our field trips, they are mixed and intermingled. And socially, it really, really helps. It helps them a lot. So we've got some great experts, some great teams with the middle school. And Stephanie, I know that you wanted
I think we're gonna let Ms.
Oh, of
Sturkey
course, Ms.
chime in
Sturkey,
for a
yes,
minute before Ms. McIntosh.
So-
carry the torch.
So, yeah, so the transition, it's interesting, I was a little skeptical about 5th grade over in middle school, and I actually was there the first year it happened.
Yeah.
And I taught with Margaret and David in language arts, and I've taught 5th grade all my life, 20 plus years, and they are ready. It was very hard as a self-contained 5th grade teacher to keep them in elementary mode because they were, whatever the times, I guess you'd want to say, but they're ready. The good thing about middle school here is there's still an innocence about it because we don't have a high school. So that's a good thing. I just want to reiterate to you guys, I hope you all trust me as I've been with some of you for a while. We're not always perfect, but we certainly work hard the best we can for your kids. I've never, ever worked with two finer people than these two standing right here. I was so impressed with the way they handled the transition of these kids. Again, 5th grade was kind of my mojo, and I think theirs too. But they provide the biggest safety net, being fair and firm with the kids, because it is a little bit different. They're going to talk to you about that. But they might, if a kid is it's a roller coaster, and they may be down here, but Margaret and David never let them fall or fail. So it's a huge transition, whether it's 5th grade or 6th grade. Just know, and I'm saying this with all sincerity, they are in the best hands possible.
Wow.
I know.
I'm not sure, I'm just leaving the room.
You're gonna make me cry, Mr. Turkey. Good.
You ready for us?
Yeah, it's okay.
So yeah, let's introduce, my name's David Spates. I've been at ESK now for, I think this is my 12th class, somewhere around in there, time flies. Yeah, taught 5th grade the entire time. I was in lower school for quite a few years before we made the transition to middle school. And now that we've done it, I think it was absolutely the best move that we could have made. I teach math, I teach science. So the 5th graders see me twice a day, every day, 5 days a week, math and science. And well, introduction.
Yes, I'm Margaret Googe. This is my 8th year at ESK. I started in 3rd grade as Megan Jenkins' assistant before moving into 5th grade. And I was over in the lower school for a year while we were still self-contained. And so then was part of that transition process. And then we've been over here since. I currently teach 5th grade language arts and literature. 5th grade language arts meets 5 days a week. And then literature meets 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days they go to art. And then David also did mention, in addition to teaching these 5th grade classes, we also coach sports over in the middle school, which all of our 5th graders get to participate in, with a very few minor exceptions, and then also lead clubs. So he's in charge of chess club, I'm in charge of the 5th and 6th grade book club, which is really awesome, and we got to start a couple years ago, and it's just for fun. We meet during the school days. Our kids have busy after school lives. So there's a lot more to it than just the subjects that we teach. And there were advisors, we're there in homeroom before first period starts, we go to recess with them, we eat lunch with them, they can't escape us. We're always there. And their lockers are right between our classrooms, and we have a few that are right across from my classroom. But for the most part, they're 2 steps, 3 steps often from our doors. So we're right there in the hallway, hanging out with them.
Yes.
Yes.
And Ms. McIntosh?
Yes. So I'm Stephanie McIntosh, and I've been here for 17 years at the Episcopal School, and I teach social studies in 5th and 7th grade. And basically, they'll see me one time a day, but every day for just one class period. They'll mostly be with Ms. Gooch and Mr. Spades, in the biggest part of their day, but they'll come over to the kind of the 7th, 8th grade hallway, for their social studies class. We're studying American history, basically the formation of the United States. So we start with American Indian cultures and regions, cultural regions, and then we study the European explorers and why and how they came to the continent. And then we look at the conflict between those two groups as it develops. And we look at colonization and the formation of the British colonies, and then all the way through the American Revolutionary War and the Constitution and Western expansion. Basically, that's what we're studying. So it's a pretty good foundational course. And then in 8th grade, they'll pick up that study again. And go forward from the Civil War onto modern times. In 6th grade, they'll study ancient civilizations. And in 7th grade, they'll study the world by regions. And that includes, social studies always includes history, geography, civics, and economics. So those are the 4 disciplines that are woven in always in social studies courses. But I don't give a lot of homework.
You should put that plug in now.
Because I know that math and language arts, they're skills-based courses, and they build, those skills build, that knowledge builds upon itself, and they have to have practice for those courses. So I try to, make mine's more conceptual. It's a story. So, it takes less outside of the classroom work. And I try to, we read together, and I teach while we read and consolidate the reading in the classroom space. So, we complete our reading notes. They're learning how to take notes, how to condense information, into a note format. And then they can use those notes on their tests, because the test is not just testing their knowledge, but also their ability to apply knowledge to different situations. So basically, that's my course, just a summary form. And, I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to talk again as the school year begins next year. Okay, but thank you so much. It's good to see you.
She's gonna head on to another.
Yeah, I'm going to.
So here's another one that goes with.
So there's a handout that we can pass.
While we're talking about some of the differences, here, tell you what, I'll just hand these and you can
Yeah, take and pass.
do that. Also here.
And I'm Mary Lovely, I'm the middle school director. I've been around for about 17 years also, but I haven't been a full-time teacher the whole time. I came here as a parent, and I was looking for something different for my kids. I felt like they needed a different kind of environment, wanted a nice small place where all the adults know the kids. And I loved all the extras that were here. I liked our commitment to fine arts and to world languages and world cultures. And I really liked the full rounded experience for kids, and the fact that kids get to go outside. They get fresh air every now and then. They get to, do many different things. And so it was exactly the experience I wanted for my kids. And we've never regretted that decision. It worked really well for them. They went on and did well in high school and in college situations. And so we've been very happy. And I just stuck around, I did whatever they needed me to do. I wanted to help out because I really believe in this school. It's just a really special place. And they're right. We can't say too many good things about the faculty. The faculty love the kids. It's just like your experience in lower school and how much that teacher loves your child. The middle school teachers love them too. They are just treating them in a way that is, more developmentally appropriate at times. It's just those little baby steps to helping teach them how to be independent and how to manage some things on their own, but there's always the safety net here. So just like in lower school, if you have a question or something, you can always contact a teacher and they'll get back in touch with you and let you know. It's always great to go to the teacher that was in the classroom first, because they were there too and they know what happened. So they can give you the most, accurate information. But then if you ever need help, you can always reach out to me, you can reach out to Dr. Talmadge or to Ms. Sturkey. We're all here as a team, and we say that a lot, but it's true. We're all here to work together to help support your kids and your families, because you're part of the ESK family, and we want to take care of each other, and we want to help guide them through these years, because we love middle school. And I've always said, I think we're kind of just old middle schoolers. I'm like an 11-year-old. I like their humor and all that. And there's a few of them who are 13-year-olds, but we really truly appreciate kids at this stage of their lives. They're just amazing, and the change from 5th grade to 8th grade, it's just such a tremendous period of maturity and growth that buckle up, you're in for a really fun ride. We really
It's
are.
not easy.
There's gonna be trying times, but overall, it's just a great period of excitement, just seeing them come into their own and develop their own sense of self and their passions. And then by the time they're ready for high school, they get to kind of make some high school decisions based on what they're interested in. Like when you go through the process to look for a high school, they kind of know, oh, I really like this world language, or oh, I really like being in dramas and musicals. And they kind of figure out which high school is comfortable for them to move on to do that. So they have a good sense of self by the time they get out of here. And it's hard for us to let them go, but it's really gratifying to see that they're ready by the time they finish the program. So we are very pleased that you guys are here, and we're really excited and looking forward to, spending the next 4 years with you. Did you want to talk a little bit more specifically?
Sure, and I just throw in another plug. I think you rarely see high school students willingly come back to their middle school on their days off. And just this year
Happens
alone,
all the time.
I mean, we have kids come back when Catholic has a day off, or like West has a late start in the morning. I mean, the number of kids that we've seen, not just like freshmen, but all the way up to seniors, they come back and they come visit. We had a whole group of boys who were juniors this year. There were like 5 of them. They came back on their day off. They just wanted to visit ESK. And so I think that's really cool, because I would imagine not many middle schools can say they've got former students who are like, let's go visit.
We want to see our teachers.
Yeah, we want to see our teachers. Want to go back.
I haven't been within 5 miles of my middle school in however 40-something years it's been, yeah.
Well, I'm currently at my middle school, so I've been here.
It is nice to see those older kids come back and say hello, and when they drive up in their own cars, it's just like, wow, they're just that tall, like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah,
Do you want to talk about the papers?
yeah, I don't want to read every word to you there. I mean, you can read just as well as I can. But what you're going to see there are just what we feel like are some significant differences between lower school and middle school. Kind of a thumbnail sketch of what a year looks like in middle school, some of the highlights, conferences, field trips, all that kind of stuff. And on the back, I've included an example. I think there's some other stuff too. An example progress report. And a progress report is something that is quite a bit different than what you're used to in lower school. Every Sunday, you're going to get an automatic email from the RenWeb system that gives you complete details on every grade your child has in every class. And that's what you're looking at there on that second page. Quiz grades, test grades, participation, homework, all that stuff, and how you're able to check and see exactly what's going on, what we're doing, what assignments are there. My kids went to ESK too, and there were quite a few times on a Sunday afternoon I'd get that progress report. Phil, tell me about this pending grade or this missing grade or whatever. And it's just a great way to, keep tabs on what's going on. I'm not looking over their shoulder for every little homework assignment, but something like this is a great way for me as a parent to say, okay, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, this is where he is, where she is, and it's a way for us to try to maintain some transparency so you know what we're doing, and we're trying to communicate with you, give you as much information as you want, so you kind of know what's going on with your kid.
Yeah, and there's
Can
a,
I interject?
okay, yeah.
So, we don't do grades in lower school. And if kids have been with us since kindergarten, they don't even know what a grade is. So we transition after Christmas, like we actually have a lesson on what are grades. And me being a public school person, I'm like, what? That they really don't know what they are. So we go over that. You'll notice in their weekly folders, they are putting like 9 out of 10 equals a 90 equals a B. And if the teacher hasn't started that, they will start doing it after Christmas. And then if it's a U, it's definitely, we never just hand it back and say, it's a conversation if it's not acceptable or we don't feel it's the best effort. That's the beauty of having two adults in there is they'll say, hey, Margaret, let's look at this. Now let's talk about it. And they have the chance to fix it. And the thing about the grades in middle school is, if they get an unsatisfactory grade, it's not going to kill there's so many grades in there and participation helps bump it up. And it's just a great learning process because it doesn't matter until high school. Now, we don't tell the kids that, but I don't want kids to be stressing out about, every single little grade because it's all an average. And it's, kids who were so-so in lower school, like I follow up on their grades and they've done great. And again, I attribute it to these two because they don't let them face plant. They don't. And
We'll let them get a skin knee every once in a while.
Yes.
I'm okay with a skin knee.
Sometimes you have to
But
learn
just
to
know
learn
we're,
words.
we're
Yeah.
easing them into that, and they'll know what the grading scale means. They'll know what those things mean before they come over.
Yeah. And what I was gonna say with the progress reports too is there is a section for comments, and I don't know that the one that you have necessarily has a comment in it. But so if it is a lower grade, like maybe it was a quiz grade and they got something below a 75, we'll put in why. Like I just put in a grade and said, so-and-so did not follow all the directions for 6 out of the 12 questions and therefore missed the points. That's why the grade is low. So you can see it's not that they didn't understand what they were doing, they just didn't follow the directions. And a lot of times in 5th grade, a lot of low grades come from just not following all the directions and working too quickly. And there's a learning curve with that also. And the kids know this and we say it to them all the time. We'll let you kind of have to learn through experience. But if we start seeing a pattern and it keeps happening over and over again, that's when we say, time out, let's get mom and dad in here, let's sit you down, let's say what's going on. And we'll figure out a plan because ultimately, we don't want them to fail. We don't want them to keep getting those low grades. So we're gonna get to the bottom of it. We don't let it go on to the point of no return.
I've told parents countless times that in my view, 5th grade grades are really kind of there to let you know what's working and what's not really working. A lot of times kids will come in and they say, well, I did this, I studied, and I looked over my assignment, but the grades aren't what they want. I said, okay, well, if you're not getting the grades that you want, we have to figure out something different because obviously what you're doing isn't giving you the results that you or mom or dad or whoever want. So let's figure out what we can do differently to get those grades where you want them. And that's a lot of what we do in 5th grade is figuring out how to be the best student you can be.
What does it mean to be a student? That's a lot of it. Time management. Ms. McIntosh mentioned homework. Our policy in 5th grade is, 10 to 15 minutes per subject a night. But that doesn't mean that they're gonna have homework in every single subject, every single night. I give a lot of assignments that are over the course of a couple days. So they'll get it on a Monday and it's due on Wednesday or Thursday. So if you break it up and you do it in chunks, it's great. If you procrastinate and you wait till the night before, it's not great. And so part of that is learning that time management, and all of 5th grade starts the year with study skills as their elective. So in the middle school, they have Monday and Wednesday, one class period where they get to choose a special class. We typically have an art elective, some sort of maybe tech elective, it just depends, a study hall, and then something maybe the teacher's choosing. But when they come into the middle school, we make them take study skills, and it's myself, Miss Winston, and Miss Carr, and we teach them about learning styles, and we teach them about study techniques, and about organization, and about time management. And then we give them time as a study hall to try to make use of those skills, and we try to build on those throughout the year. Like, remember when we talked about this in study skills? And refer back to it in 5th grade. Because again, a lot of 5th grades learning how to be a student so that they're really feel prepared. And we are right across the hall from the 6th grade teachers, and we hear a lot from them that there is a very big difference between the kids who come to them from us versus the kids who come in from another school as a new 6th grader. That the transition is much harder for the kids who come in from outside than it is for the kids that are coming from us.
Yeah.
So.
And I could stand up here and talk until the cows come home.
Yeah, we'll make it a chance for questions.
But, so let me just give you a quick little thumbnail of middle school, 8 periods every single day, 42 minutes per period, 3 or 4 minutes in between classes to go to your locker, swap out books, hit the restroom, whatever you need to do. And that's your typical day, 8 periods. So they're never in one room too awful long. 42 minutes. I mean, the first month or so of school, and that bell goes off, the kids are like, whoa, math is already over? What happened? I just got here. Yeah, so that's a bit of an adjustment. But again, I could talk, but I want to make sure that we address some of the concerns, some of the questions that you all have. And if you don't have a lot of questions, we'll just continue to talk about what we know. But I want to make sure that we have a chance to talk about what's important to you.
Yeah, so the 8 period day, there are what we call 5 cores. So language arts every day, math every day, social studies every day, science every day. And the 5th core is world language, but in 5th grade, they get to try on the world languages. So they're going to take 12 weeks of Latin, 12 weeks of Mandarin Chinese, and 12 weeks of Spanish, which is fun because the teachers are campaigning to see who's going to come to their class. That they would take for a full time for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And the goal is for our kids to graduate really through an honors level, first year high school level class by the time they leave here in 8th grade. So when they matriculate to high school, they're going into a level 2 or level 2 honors. We see our kids, if they stick with that same language. But those are the 5 cores.
But we also have Learning Center.
Oh, yes. And
That could be a choice instead of world language. Because sometimes world language is not a requirement in middle school. It's just kind of an extra that kind of helps you, if it's something that's important to you to prepare for high school. But if the child needs just something different, needs a little more assistance with executive functioning or different organizational skills or just some extra support, we have the Learning Center. And it's an excellent program, and it is in place of the world language class. So it's that same class period. So they would go to the Learning Center every day for a 42-minute class. And then often they will offer some kind of study hall support another time during the week if the group needs it. It's very much tailored to trying to help make sure the kids get what they need to be able to keep learning and growing through middle school. And there's a little handout about Learning Center. It's kind of a separate sheet. But I did want to mention that to you because I wanted you to know that that's kind of like if your kids have worked with Stacy in lower school, it may be that they'll work in the Learning Center in middle school for that same kind of assistance. So I didn't interrupt.
No problem. That was great.
The Learning Center.
Glad you interjected there. Yeah, Learning Center is wonderful, and it can happen a little bit differently than just speech or with what Stacy does with care plans and doing some integration of accommodations that we can make, modifications that we can make within each child in the classroom. So they can still be part of Learning Center, but not necessarily go during that world language
They
time
don't
too.
all have to go. To
Exactly.
Learning Center.
So those are the 5 core. Chapel is also in there too. Chapel is not first thing in the morning, obviously, it's lower school time. So we go first, second, and third periods. And then after third period, they have that break and they get away. And it's really kind of like changing the channel, a nice little reset. They walk across to the other end of the campus. They get a lot of the monkeys out in between them because they're going to need to move around a good bit. And chapel is same, very similar format, a little bit more formal, I guess, that the kids do the reading. They also help with the prayers, a little bit more of the formal Episcopal service that Father Matt will do. But Father Matt, it's pretty much the same kind of message, but he takes it up to the middle school level and really directs it right to some of the things that they're dealing with at that time. But it's super nice. And then after chapel, they come back and they have advisory. So I mentioned that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And advisory is a nice addition where the 5th and the 6th grade are blended together with an advisor. And it may not be Mr. Spates or Ms. Gooch. It could be one of the 6th grade teachers, just depending on how that falls. And that is really nice in getting the social, the getting along, the group interactive, some of the dynamics of character building, fun and games.
Fun and games, but also building relationships with teachers outside of myself and Mr. Spates and Ms. McIntosh, and really broadening their understanding of who all is in the middle school, and having kind of a go-to person, maybe, you know, like if they're having some academic trouble, but they're a little worried about talking to that specific teacher, they have a teacher they can go to as their support person and say, hey, I need your advice. Like I have a 6th grader in my advisory who came and said, I need your advice on how to, well, he said confront the teacher, and I was like, well, let's maybe change the verb on that one. But I think what you mean is talk to the teacher. And he's like, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, great, let's talk. But yes, a lot of it is social time. We give them some time for study hall. My kids really wanted to do a Secret Santa, so we're doing it's a crafting Secret Santa. They have to create the gift, and we drew names today. And like the 5th and 6th graders are in there, they're mingling, they're hanging out. You wouldn't, other than like some size difference, you wouldn't walk in and be like, that's a 6th grader, that's a 5th grader. You couldn't tell the difference really, which I think is really cool. And that's anywhere from, it could be 20 minutes to 5 minutes. It just depends on how long chapel runs.
How long Father Matt preaches.
Yes.
Yeah,
Or our announcements.
or our announcements.
Yeah.
Sometimes announcements go on a little long. Sometimes we get a little extra recess in too, like
Or
when it's a
Eucharist.
particularly nice day in the winter. We're like, ooh, we got a little more sunshine. Let's go outside. Let's get, which is pretty cool. The kids like that. Because in other middle schools, they don't get middle school recess. So obviously 5th grade, if they're in elementary, they still do. But once you move to 6th, 7th, and 8th, recess goes away. But we still have it, which is pretty.
We do. We're
It's
outside
really
every day. Even recess every day for sure, and
Yeah.
outside as much as possible. And recess is combined with lunch. 5th and 6th grade will eat recess first, while 7th and 8th grade are piling up the trays. You're gonna notice a little intake of food as they go through these growing years. But yeah, they have, we're lots of different sections and rotations that take place with recess, and then they also get back over to the Camp Baker, the Little Ropes course over at the lower school area too. They get to taste that once a week, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, we let the 5th graders vote. Because some of different classes have different feelings. Some really want to go.
Opportunities for control freedom.
Yes, some.
Yeah.
Some would much rather stay over here. And then, after lunch, their 5th periods and their 7th periods change depending on the day. So today is a Wednesday. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they have PE during 7th period. And on Monday, Wednesday, they have electives. And on Fridays, they have music during 5th period. Tuesdays and Thursdays during 5th period, they have music. And then 7th period, it would either be they would go to guidance with Miss Ross, or half of them would go to tech with Mr. Fowler, who's in the back. And then starting after Christmas, they switch from going to guidance to religion with Father Matt. So that's kind of their day in a nutshell, which is, I know, a lot of information. And the other piece of that is you're like, how do they keep up with all this? It takes them about a week, if that, of walking around with their schedule. They've got a copy, like you all have that paper copy of their schedule. They have one of those. They walk around, and after about a week, maybe a week and a half, they know. They don't need the paper anymore. They remember. Some of them maybe it's a little bit longer, but honestly, it's amazing how quickly they pick it up. Really, campus is not that big. Their classes are not that far apart. So it's pretty easy for them to start to figure it out. Yes,
Do they tend to be with the same kids traveling through their schedule all day?
great question. So the way fifth grade currently is set up, science sections and the lit art sections are paired. So half of them are in science, half of them are with us. So when they go to science and lit, they'll be with the same kids. Then for math, social studies, and language arts, those are split into 3 sections. Math classes are leveled, and it's really just pacing, how fast they need something versus do they need a little extra time. But then Miss Lovely and I work over the summer so that for the language arts and social studies classes, we divvy it up so that they're not with the same math class. So while they may all see Mr. Spates for 4th period, 6th period, half of those 4th period kids will come to me and the other half will go to Miss McIntosh. So they'll be mixed in. So it's not like they're following the same math group around.
We try to shuffle the deck.
Yeah, it's
We-
fun.
yeah.
There'll be a handful that they'll have every class together, but they're gonna see
But
pretty
we really
much
try
all of
to-
their 5th grade on.
Get them spread out as much as we can. Because they are small classes and after a while, you know, it's like spending time with family on vacation. By the end, you're like,
Sometimes you need a
is
little break.
it time to go home yet?
And we do
so-
meet with the different
Yes.
teachers and Miss Starkey, and we kind of discuss placements and, you know, just like they do in lower school, and we try to help, you know, have those positive, you know, positive pairings we can, and try to avoid things that might be hard or stressful for anybody. So yeah, it's very strategic,
It
and
is.
we work really hard, and we make adjustments if we have to later on, if we figure out somebody needs a different pace or whatever. Takes a few weeks, but then if we figure it out, we go in and change it. We don't make you wait until like a report card, or make you wait until half a year before we change things. If we need to change it, we change it.
What is your grading scale?
Grading scale. Oh, it's a 7-point
7-point.
scale, so 93 to 100 is an A,
Okay.
92
So
to
not
85. No, it's not our study scale.
We went with the Tennessee grading scale because they went to that 7-point. And then now Knox County and some of them have gone back to that 10-point scale. So, I mean, it's something we'll monitor and watch, but most people have been really appreciative of it because it helped get them really ready for those high school grading scales, and it wasn't such a shock. Where kids who had always had an A suddenly kept making a 91. And they could never get an A in high school, and it was really, really hard.
So now they done dropped it back.
Yeah,
And
and
I
some
was
of
like,
them.
your grade does not reflect what I used to have. It don't work for
That's one of
me.
those things.
I didn't know Knox County was back to a 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they found
Just
that.
recently, or-
Yeah.
This year. and so
Oh, this year.
Yeah,
She's
and
getting away with some things I definitely was like, no.
Yeah.
It don't work for me.
Yeah, there used to be a world of difference between
It
the 91 and the 93.
It is.
Yes.
Definitely is.
yeah.
See now.
Lily's roasting. Oh, yeah. We have a 5th grader who has a sister in public school, and he's been asking me constantly, and I was like, well, we're rigorous here academically. We're challenging
And that's a
you.
good thing.
And it's a good thing. I was like, it's good for you.
I didn't see library, but I didn't.
Oh, that is a good question. We don't have a library class.
Okay.
So that is a shift. The middle school library, the kids have access to it in that morning time before first period starts, during advisory time, during lunch recess, after school, in terms of checking out books. Part of what I do in language arts and literature at the beginning of the year is I take them over to the library and we do some orientation classes about, you know, how is it organized? How do you check out books? In middle school, the kids get to check out the books themselves, which they love. They're like, oh, Ms. Clark doesn't have to do it, I get to do it. And then there are computers in the library as well that they have access to if they need to print any papers or project things, which we also, do an orientation about that. So Mr. Fowler's perk up a little bit, like, what, talking about printers? Because some kids really need to be taught that no, if it doesn't print once, you don't print again and again and again. It doesn't automatically make it magically appear.
Or you
Yes. Yes, so that is a difference between lower school and middle school, but we do try to get them in the library. Yes.
And Ms. Clark is still the librarian, and then
Ms. Henry.
Ms. Henrik is the assistant in there too. So there are a lot of adults around to help them out if they have questions too. And the teachers can schedule special times to go to the library if they want to work on some kind of research or picking out an independent free read or something. So there's plenty of time.
And it's a busy place. It's really neat to see. It is the hub of middle school, and the kids are using it very interactively and very independently. So it's a nice transition piece.
So you mentioned computers being in the library, but what about technology class
Yeah.
instruction,
great
especially
question.
like safe computing? And I know in fourth grade, they're starting to do some research and what
Yeah,
is
great
that
question.
part of the
You bet.
curriculum?
So the kids already have Chromebooks in fourth grade, so they're gonna be pros at that. In fifth grade, the Chromebooks are issued, and they are theirs to use and take home, and that's gonna be a big piece of their day. It's great. Mr. Fowler has a wonderful protective barrier, so there's very little that can come into that Chromebook, even at home, which is nice. But with technology, tech is really gonna be, and Joe, interject if you would like to. We do subscribe to what's called the Social Institute, and that is done with tech, but also in guidance as well, where it's how to use technology appropriately, how to embrace it in a very, very safe way, how to make good decisions using technology, what to be looking out for, how to be good advocates of one another. when
There's
we're
a
using
great parent
technology.
component to that too.
Yes.
And we
great.
probably see emails come with that sometimes from Ms. Ross with links to some of the things.
She's just started it in fourth
Started it
grade.
with fourth grade, but there is a wonderful parent resource. The technology is going to change right under your nose very, very quickly, and your kids are going to come up with an app that you don't really know anything about, and that app may not be like TikTok, would be a great example, where you could look up that app in your parent portal, and it will give you all the goods and all the not so goods and things that you need to be wary about, how that app might be used appropriately and inappropriately. But we go through that with the kids too. Technology also will include sort of a design thinking principle as well. So a little bit of the robotics, a little bit of the rocketry to bridge building to how to kind of fail and build a better prototype. That's the principle behind design thinking, and that's done in the tech
And that's a
lab.
once a week class.
Yes. Anything else? Joe?
Pretty much covered all the bases. I've pretty much covered all the bases.
Yeah.
We do use a platform called Securely, which the students hate it, but we love it. It keeps the Chromebooks on a pretty tight leash. And there is a parent piece to that I'm getting ready to start beta testing with a group of parents that allows you to see what the children are doing on the computers and set limits.
Yeah, it's a great program for us. It's, the technology they're going to be exploring. That's what they're doing. They're looking for independence. They're looking to see, what's here and what's there, and exploring the different alleys, and some are bright and some are dark. And we get pop-up messages all the time. If we see anything, we've got some suspicious code words in there that will pop up, and it will alert Mr. Fowler if somebody's going down the wrong way. And
And you can go directly to them and go,
hey, tell me
what
about
are you doing? And they're like,
nothing.
like, you could bust them, like,
Well, and it becomes a good conversation.
Yeah.
yeah.
We've had conversations with kids and it's like, do you have a question about something? Because, the filter has noticed that you've searched for this thing like 10 times within a certain time. Just a general example. And so, it does, it opens up a great dialogue because it's not coming from a place of you're in trouble, this is wrong. This is completely normal to be curious.
Yeah.
And I get that you have questions, but you need to let us help guide you to some places where you can get information where it's probably a little safer for you and a little more age appropriate, and we go over, who's a good person to talk to, talk to your parents about it, talk to Ms. Ross, ask your questions, and kids will say things like, yeah, my parents gave me a weird book about that. It's probably time to read that book and then ask your parents the questions too, because technology is part of their life. And it's not our job to shut it down and totally police it. It's to help them figure out and guide them on a healthy way to use it. Because they need to know how to use it the right way.
Like driving a car, learning to drive a car.
It's part of their life. Some of their books are digital, and so it's just helping them get the maturity to manage it and use it the right way and help resist the urge to, ooh, the Chromebook's open, I'm gonna play a game. No, it's social studies time. You're gonna be on your digital textbook, but it's just baby steps, and we are walking right along with them and supporting them as they go through it. So the tech program is very important to all of us, and the guidance program, they work well together.
You guys mentioned like
clubs, is that the after-school club still or the during class
There's
time?
both.
Because I know my son does chess after school, but I didn't know chess is still during school hours now? When he
No,
gets to that
chess
age,
is, like, something like chess
it'll still
is
be after school.
after school,
Okay.
right? So we meet for chess once a week from 3:30 to 4:30 after school. But there are some clubs and organizations such as student government that meets during school. Ms. Googe runs a book club that meets during school. And there's also
Sometimes
plenty of
there's
things after school.
student-driven clubs.
True,
Students
yes.
will come up and propose an idea to a faculty member and ask them to be the, the facilitator for it.
Mhm.
Like, Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Just different
What
things,
was
and so
that?
those kids will meet at lunch.
Warhammer, that's what it was, Warhammer. And we use, the lunch recess time to meet, because it is the best time, and it's the same amount of time with a little bit extra as like a class period. And some SGA meets occasionally after school too, like if they're putting on a school function, they may have occasional days where like, they put on the middle school Christmas party that we have every year. They're currently starting to plan and work on that. So the day before the party, they'll stay after school and they'll do all the setup. But like book club is almost exclusively during the day. And that's a once a month thing. So it's not like they're missing recess every day of the week or one day every week. It's about once a month that we meet. And then
Saintly Singers.
Saintly Singers is our a cappella group, and they meet during advisory time on Tuesday, Thursday. You have us for 15 more minutes, don't worry. But you will hear the fifth graders leaving to go to eighth grade.
See?
Yeah,
You should be walking.
should be walking. They're so excited
to get to the next class.
Yeah, they got a quiz in my class, so, and then, there are a lot of athletics that are available to our fifth graders. I think swimming is like the only exception, and
Like tennis is-
tennis,
Cross country.
tennis and cross country, although with KYS cross country, they do allow them to choose
Just a 1 or 2 mile.
yeah, it's like, do you want one or two? So the fifth graders can choose whether they compete in the elementary league or the middle school league. So they actually get more options.
Basketball's now that way too.
And basketball, oh, really?
Mhm.
Oh,
Grade can play in the lower.
oh, yeah, that's true.
Already.
The lower school fifth grade can play in the lower school league that just started this year if they're not quite ready to play in the middle.
Jacob Travis, will you come to the office for dismissal? Jacob Travis.
So yeah, other questions?
More on the technology, and probably this is for you, this question, as far as a writing assignment. So what point are y'all, is it not handwritten and it's actual paper?
Great question. So, our writing is broken up into 3 units. There's narrative writing, there is expository writing, and persuasive opinion. And so I do a lot of journal writing for small exercises. So like small, quick writes. And then when it comes time to go through the whole writing process, like starting from brainstorming all the way to final draft, that's when we would make use of the computers and we would type those documents. And then they get a handful of assignments sometimes where like they type on like a Google form quiz, they may have to type constructed response paragraphs. But I would say like 50% of the time we're using it for papers, the other time we're handwriting. And it's really helpful, at least in that whole revision process, to type it as opposed to handwrite it, because when it comes time to insert and move things around, I mean, it's amazing what you can do on a Google Doc versus like, all right, draw a star here, now go on the next page, write the sentence that you want to add in. So we do a lot of typing, but also a fair amount of handwriting. So
In that lane, do you guys teach them typing or?
Keyboarding.
keyboarding,
They can be clacking whenever you want.
Right.
chicken pecking. Mr. Fowler?
We have a typing club program, but as far as a once a week class, I've tried, but to keep the consistency with the kids, it's a work in progress at this point.
I have seen some teachers let them use it as an open activity too, before class starts, so you can practice keyboarding for a while.
Keyboarding.
On that
It's
format.
integrated.
Yeah, there's a handful of I guess, yeah, like websites or activities they can do if they're done with their work and they have free time. I like to give them time to free read or free write in their journal, but typing club is one of them that they can go to. That's
And they
also
can
an
do
option.
those at home too.
Mhm.
It's difficult,
It's good use of time.
yeah, it's like Joe said, it's difficult to tack that down because I know they like to do this, but the reality is, it's kind of like, the reality is they can all talk to text because that's in Google Docs now. I mean, you don't even have to pay for a program, and it's actually pretty darn good as far as enunciating and things like that. So that's not to say we shouldn't teach it. They're exposed to typing starting in 2nd grade. So it's kind of a habit thing.
One thing we're watching very closely is AI, artificial intelligence, and as you all know, be on your cell phone, and it can create the rest of your thought before you've finished typing out that thought. And still going back to the old school of paper and pencil and learning to create your own thought and expression is going to be very important for us.
Yes.
So you may not see 100% typing in all our writing.
The other thing about Google Docs is that it saves everything that you do, and it also tells you who did the work and when. So there's a timestamp, there is an email associated with who did the writing. And so it is very easy to spot plagiarism. It's very easy to spot if parents have done the work. And all it is just going into that revision history and breaking it down and saying, all right, so you went from a blank document to the next minute having 2 paragraphs typed. That means you copied and pasted. And so there's sometimes a learning curve with that too. But we teach them how to use a Google Doc, how to format. There's a lot of that instruction. I mean, with the STEM project that he does, the writing assignments that I do, the projects that I do in literature, we do a lot of instruction on how to use Google apps, I guess. Yeah. Other questions?
I would definitely like to say something about math, if nobody else has any questions real quick. A big difference from lower school to middle school is the fact that we do level the math classes, which means that I'm teaching 3 math classes every single day. First and foremost, everybody does the exact same curriculum. Everybody's hitting the same skills, everybody's using the same book, everybody's doing the same thing. At the end of the year, everybody will have gotten to the same spot as each math class. The difference is the pacing and the depth. One math class moves at a little bit slower pace, a few more examples. The concepts are still there, but we're just kind of going at a slower pace. So if that's where your child needs to be, then that's where we'll start off. There's another class that's pretty much kind of the grade level class. This is what we expect 5th graders to be doing, how quickly, the depth, the pace, that sort of thing. And then I also have a class that moves pretty quickly. I don't have to do a lot of examples with these kids. They pick it up pretty quickly, and we can move at a quicker pace. We can explore different depths. We can go into things that are similar, but kind of next level stuff. Like right now, we're going through kind of basic algebra steps, 1-step equations. And with my fast group, I can kind of play around with some 2-step equations. And that's not something I can do with both classes because it's kind of above and beyond what the 5th grade curriculum asks for. But that's one of the benefits that you have in leveling is that you meet the kids where they are and go at the pace that they need to go at. And those classes are set up by the 4th grade teachers. Because when they come to me on day 1, I mean, I don't know these kids. I don't know who can do what. So I rely on Ms. Sturkey. I rely on the 4th grade teachers to tell me, okay, this is what we suggest the math classes be. And I take that and I say, great, let's go with that. But I also tell the 4th grade teachers, if you are on the fence on a kid, I would much rather you start at a lower, slower moving group, and then we can possibly move up, because that's a much better conversation to have with parents and kids say, hey, we noticed that you're just knocking it out of the park. Let's go up to a quicker moving math group. The reverse of that is not nearly as comfortable. It's a little tougher for everybody. So I asked the fourth grade teacher specifically, if you have a doubt, put them lower and let me move up. I've already moved, 2 or 3 kids so far this year, and we're at 1 term in. So we make those moves quickly. I don't wait around until the next grading period. If I see that a child is ready to make the move, I'll contact you. We'll have a conversation, make sure it works with the schedule, and then we'll make the move. That's one of the benefits of being at a small, nimble school like ESK. We can make those changes pretty quickly and not have to have a lot of red tape, bureaucracy, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the middle school math curriculum is an algebra curriculum, starting from 5th grade all the way to 8th. We want them to be algebra mastered when they head on to high school. And I'll give you a life example. My 2 daughters, one's a marine biologist, the other's an art major. And so right brain, left brain. And one was in the hand raiser class, and she was so eager, and the other totally not in the hand raiser class. She so appreciated not being in people like her sister, is what she would say. And so she learned really well. So it's more of a class dynamic and a class approach than it is an honors level. You know, they're not the blackbirds and the bluebirds and the whatever. They're just how we approach it and how we, let them guide. But they both my girls score the same on the SAT. So it worked. The approach worked. It's not like the other got more points because she was in the hand raiser class. I appreciate it a lot. So don't feel like there's advantages to being in that fast math class because they're going to Harvard if they're going to have math, the high math. That's not the way it works at all. It's just how they approach it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned algebra, and I know that in some of the Knox County middle schools, students can leave middle school with a high school algebra credit, or maybe even geometry.
Right.
Is that something that ESK offers where students would have credits that count toward high school?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have to take, there's the placement test. There's really no advantage to it because they're just going to get placed in that next math. You have to have 4 math credits. So it's just where you start, and that extra credit doesn't let you graduate from high school earlier.
Right.
So, we really don't push it for that reason.
But it might get you to higher level math.
Higher calculus.
So Knox County, you cannot get the credits, but they will put you in the next class.
They don't
So
give you
like if
credit.
you've taken algebra, so it is different, like if you're at a Knox County middle school, they get the grade, the credit, everything. The requirements don't change, like Dr. Thomas said, they still have all that, but it is different because while Lily was able to jump ahead in Spanish and in math, she didn't get the credits. It doesn't matter at all for math other than where you are. For foreign language, it does in that they still have to have the 2 credits. Whereas like if they take Spanish 1 somewhere else, they get that credit, they can stop after their freshman year.
Okay.
But so they still have to take 2, but if they start at Spanish 2, then they take, or whatever.
Yeah, go to 3.
Take 2 and 3 before they can get in.
Yeah, we find our kids like language. I don't know how you're really doing.
Oh, yeah, and then she'll go all the way through. So
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't an issue for her. And really, we were in that before she ended up doing Spanish 2 honors, but she should have gone into Spanish 3 honors. Like she was
Placed on her test.
No, we just placed her because that's where we just assumed that she would go. And then by the time, it was a whole thing. She didn't have a teacher for the first month, like their teacher quit right before. And so by the time, it was just so, we just decided it wasn't worth switching. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, she was very well prepared.
Well, your kids are out there in Caroline. My parting line, just think about when they were infants to when they were 2 and the amount of development that took place. That's exactly what's getting ready to happen from 11 to 14. It's about on that same equivalent. So a lot of change is getting ready to happen. We're experts in that 11 to 14. This is an awesome team. This is what we do. It's our specialty. And your kids, it takes a family, it takes a team to get through. It takes a village. And we're there for you for this next 4 years. And we thank you, definitely thank you for being here at ESK. It is a sweet, sweet, sweet place to be.
And if I need to say we'll meet again at
Yeah,
some point.
absolutely.
And in the
A lot
meantime,
of information.
yeah, in the meantime, if you have any specific questions or general questions, feel free to email me, Ms. Lovely, Ms. Good, anybody, and we'll talk to you about anything you want.
do the meeting with the fourth graders? We've done one
We
already.
did that before the grade one, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll do
so
it again.
we're gonna do more. They wanted to get them over, before I'm gone in the spring. So they came over, we gave them a little walking tour and we did, a Q&A. There were a lot of questions, so we were like, well, we definitely do need to do another one of these. We also wanna get them in to shadow the fifth graders and have them follow them from class to class so they kind of get a feel. And we have to do that in smaller increments just because, we brought all 36 over, there'd be nowhere for them to sit. So we've got more days planned in the future.
And we'll let them shadow at least half a day, maybe the entire day. So they get a sense of how the schedule is and how it feels to go from class to class.
So your kids ask
Please
great
take a
questions.
cookie with you as you go.
I'm gonna.
Yes.
Homemade. Walk into 8th period, have a quiz.